Buongiorno, buon pomeriggio, buonasera. I love Italy. I love the country. I love everything to do with it. I love the pizza, the pasta, the food, the countryside, the cities, the coastline, everything. But more than anything, I love Andrea Berta. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is the Gooner Talk. I can't do that in Italian. That would be quite impressive if I could. But it's the best I've got to give you a little bit of Italia in the morning. So yeah, very much good morning to you all. Or of course, to all of you listening on catch up, if you are anywhere else in the world, of course, as well. And I hope that you are indeed doing good and well on this Saturday morning, which is a big day for Arsenal because it is the day where we have seen confirmation of an agreement for not the first, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, even the seventh signing, but the eighth signing of the summer. Absolutely incredible summer that Arsenal have had. It's just incredibly. It's unbelievable to think what we have done this summer. And while there is a lot of people that have been involved in the processes, that have gone on in the world of Arsenal, there's a lot of things that have gone down. You can't help but look to Andrea Berta and think, wow, we're going to come on to him in a little bit longer time as well in today's, of course, slides. But good morning to you all. Do you notice something? Do you notice I've fixed something? It's plugged in. It's finally plugged in now, which means it should stay on. So hopefully, if it goes off, it's going to be really embarrassing. But that should now stay on. So fingers crossed. I've managed to fix something. The lack of DIY ability that I have has hopefully been able to fix it. Right, let's jump to today's chat box, shall we? Good morning to you all joining us live this morning. Colin, Steve, Paul, Tabani, Martin, Maximius. We've got Paul and Matt G and Arasilki. We've got Claire, Granddaddy Gooner. We've got Zoom and Tom and Martin. We've got Sean. We've got Steve. We've got Spearman and Grantley Poos. We've got Ambrose. We've got Natty Tom. Good morning to you. You all, please make sure you drop a like on the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Thank you for those listening, of course, on catch up, on our audio, or of course our other platforms as well. And make sure you continue to make this part of your morning routines. If you could help us reach 1,000 likes on the show as well, we really would appreciate that. We try and reach it every single morning. It takes you just a second to drop a like on the video. Click the little thumbs up. That's not the little heart in the corner, by the way. If you're watching live on your phone, I know there's a little heart in the corner. If you press that, that's nothing. That doesn't do anything. It's just, I genuinely don't even know why it's there. But it doesn't do anything. So you need to actually press the thumbs up. The thumbs up is the only way that actually you like the button. I was watching Harry's show, and he certainly was putting that out to his listeners. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that, because I've watched this show and been like, oh, I just like that. Drop a little heart. Surely that means it does something. Does nothing. Does absolutely nothing. So yeah, make sure you drop a like with a thumbs up, not with the heart, of course. Right, let's jump into today's comments. We begin with all of the England squad announcements relating to Arsenal. Both Max Dowman and Porter, of course, have been called. Jack Porter have been called up for England's under-19s squad, which is a step up for Max. Of course, he's been playing with the under-17s. He's now going to be playing 4 years above his age bracket. Mad. Incredible. Brilliant achievement for him. Jack Porter, of course, who made his debut for Arsenal at 16 years of age, and is now getting the opportunity to play for our under-19 squad now, which obviously another big boost to his potential career prospects also. Moving to the under-21s, and Ethan Nwaneri has been called up for the squad once again. He joins that group that has just so recently won the European Championships, and they, of course, will be taking on Kazakhstan in a game over the course of the break. And the England senior squad for their games against Andorra and Serbia. There's plenty of Arsenal players. And we could have more, in the future, barring the situation with injuries. England could have as many as potentially 6, maybe 7 if you get call-ups for the likes of Ethan Nwaneri and maybe others in the future. But Ben White is currently out injured at the moment and has not played, although he could still be in contention for this weekend. And then, of course, Bukayo Saka is missing from this squad, who is not going to be available either. But Eberechi Eze, Noni Madueke, Declan Rice, and Miles Lewis-Skelly have all been called up for the England squad by Thomas Tuchel for the competition's games coming forward. So plenty of Arsenal, what's the word? Influence, presence in this squad, which is great to see. So that's very, very positive indeed. Moving, though, to the big transfer stories of yesterday, and that is the agreement that Arsenal have with Porto for a deal that will see Jakub Kiwior move to Portugal on the Portuguese side for around 23 million pounds, about 27 million euros. David Ornstein reporting this story yesterday. 25 million euros with 2 million euros in add-ons. The 25 million euros is guaranteed, and there is a sell-on clause attached to this deal as well. And of course, Arsenal weren't going to sanction this move until they find a way to replace him. And the positive news is that they have done exactly that. And Arsenal have agreed a loan with, wait for it, an option to buy for Piero Hincapie for 45 million pounds. 52 million euros is what this deal will cost Arsenal if they decide, not when they are forced to, but when they decide to make this deal permanent. What a transfer. Not only did they get him for well below the 60 million euro release clause that was in his contract, and got him for around 8 million euros less in a total package, but not even an obligation to buy, an option to buy. Andrea Berta is an absolute genius when it comes to transfers. It's just such a breath of fresh air when it comes to Arsenal and the market. Some really good things happened during the previous 5 years, and the squad that was built helped Mikel Arteta and Arsenal rise up the table and establish themselves as not just Premier League competitors, but Champions League competitors as well. But the work that Andrea Berta has done this summer is just great. I don't think I can put into words really without it still underselling just how fantastic the business this summer has been. Of course, we would like to see more movement regarding outgoings, and with Stuttgart's sale of Voltemada to Newcastle, there is a sense that Fabio Vieira's move to the German club could yet pick up pace, despite the fact that there had seemed to be, and there was, a difference in valuation between the two sides. The flush cash that's come into that German club now, it seems, could be enough to help them to kind of broker the difference between the two clubs' valuations of the player. So their interest never went away completely. It is still there and could yet return, of course, to the table in the next couple of days. So let's wait and see. Of course, we've got Albert Sambi Lokonga to move on. Zinchenko is being linked with a move to Marseille, although they're now looking more likely to sign Emerson Palmeiras as well from West Ham. I still think Zinchenko will probably end up staying. It could be that he gets a late move, but at the moment, it seems that he's going to be staying. And then Reece Nelson, of course. We know Crystal Palace's interest in him. There's suggestions that Arsenal will around £15 million, which would be brilliant if they can get it. But his wages are something of a stumbling block, the same as with Zinchenko as well at the moment for any sales. But with this kind of done, the Kiwior sale, which, I know it's the fee for Kiwior is not amazing. There is a sell-on clause. There's potential for them to get more money for him in the future. But it's not as much as I wanted. The problem that Arsenal have got is that while there are Premier League clubs looking at him and liked him, it was his preference not to stay in the Premier League. He wanted to leave England. He wanted to move elsewhere. And that makes it difficult to get in significant fees for players sometimes, especially from the Portuguese league. Club. I think someone pointed out to me the other day that he becomes the 6th most expensive player Porto have ever bought, which I think gives you some kind of indication in 2025, just how much money is spent by Portuguese teams. So the Kiwior sale is obviously a little bit lower than we had hoped, but the replacement definitely softens the blow quite considerably so, I think, for Arsenal. So very happy about the situation, very happy that Arsenal are not just replacing Kiwior, but they're bringing a player in who, in my opinion, is going to help upgrade that position as well. So really, really looking forward to seeing what Arsenal's 8 signings will do for them this season. And my goodness me, we are going to be in a very, very strong position for the upcoming, for this current, campaign. And Mikel Arteta, of course, who faced the press yesterday. I was there at the Shobarulti Training Centre to hear from the Arsenal manager, who was in a really good mood. I gave you a little bit of a glimpse behind the scenes of kind of what went on yesterday on my Instagram at Tom Canton Media. If you want to go and listen or watch that video back, that's kind of a concise roundup. I caught that sneeze, although I think there's another one maybe coming in a second. No, I might be all right. But yes, Arteta facing the press yesterday, gave updates on the squad's fitness. On Bukayo Saka, who says, we're getting better, but it will be out for a few weeks, unfortunately. No surgery required. It's not as bad as the previous one. Obviously, very unfortunate to kick it off. He's on the other side. It's an action that requires full power from him, and then he clashes with the opponent. He needs to change pace again, and he felt something, so it'll be out for a couple of weeks. And asked about, so do you hope? I know you don't know because you're not a doctor, but do you hope when he might resume football after the international break? And he says, I don't know. Let's see how he evolves in the next few days and few weeks. Repeat the scan and see where he is at. On Ødegaard, he said, we don't know yet. He hasn't trained yet, and if he does, it will be tomorrow, and he's doing everything he can. We're doing everything that we can to make him available, but we'll have to wait and see tomorrow. So there's not a serious injury, but hopefully if everything goes well, he can cope with it. We don't know yet. More on Kai Havertz, who of course undergone surgery for the issue that he had suffered while against Manchester United. He said, I think it will be weeks, but I don't know how many months. Very unfortunate, very sad for him. I think he did tremendously well to recover from the previous one. He's never had an injury before, and suddenly this happens, but it is our profession, our football. We need to live with that. Obviously, we lose another big player for many, many weeks, but it was the right thing to do to the surgery. The doctors advised, and I think he was very convinced at the end that it was the quickest and best way to resolve that issue. So, yeah, that's the scenario. And of course, Christian and Ben, and he said, so that's another 2 that we don't know yet. Again, tomorrow we have another day. Let's see how they evolve. And this is a chance to keep them involved in the game. So still potentially could see Norgard and White involved in the game as well. I should tell you as well that after the press conference finished, Simon Collins from the Standard did go up to Arteta and asked about Trossard and just double checked on him, and he is also a doubt for the game this weekend. So Trossard also is potentially a doubt for this match too, which is obviously a big, big blow and a big, big worry and a frustration for all of us. Now, I'm going to jump, not selfishly, but actually appropriately to the question that I asked Arteta yesterday. I'll go through both of them, but I'll tell you about the second one first because it links into those injuries that I was talking about there. I know there's been a lot of discussion that we've been having as well, around the idea of, thinking and looking internally and what is it something to do with Arsenal as to why there's so many injuries going on. And so I asked Arteta, I said, 27 injuries last season. I think 7 players have already been missing this season. which obviously must be a big pain. Does it ever make you look internally? Is there any more that Arsenal can do for these situations to try and mitigate that? Or do you kind of accept that it's part of the volume of matches that the clubs play these days? He says, no, first of all, we have to analyse what we do. That's for sure. I think in the previous season, we were there. We had the best record in the Premier League. That was 23-24. The following season, 24-25, we had one of the worst as well because of the extent, not just the amount, but the extent of the injuries of certain players, especially Tomiyasu, Gabi Jesus, the long-term injuries we have had with hamstrings. So, yeah, we have looked at everything. We are continually monitoring and evolving the needs of the players and the schedule. But unfortunately, we picked up very diverse injuries again. Probably some of them were very unexpected. And what he means by diverse is, Kai Havertz, knee, Saka, hamstring, Ødegaard, shoulder. It's a diverse range of kind of problems. So it's not anything kind of we can look at like a trend. Like Havertz was a tackle, Ødegaard was a collision when he fell to the ground. Saka was kind of a change in motion when he was running with another player. Like these aren't things that we're looking internally and going, what is Arsenal doing wrong? It's just, unfortunately, a case of things that have happened and piled up, and it's just very, very frustrating for Arsenal. The hamstring issue is not just an Arsenal thing. Hamstring problems are a league-wide problem that have been on the rise over the last however many seasons. It is a continuing issue that I think is mainly put down to the fatigue and, of course, the volume of games that continues to be played. But there isn't a causation and correlation are not necessarily the same thing. And just because Arsenal are suffering more injuries doesn't mean that they are the cause of this. Unfortunately, there is some just real bad luck to do with all of what is, of course, going on at the moment with the club. The other question that I asked Arteta was around the players that we've signed and how they help Arsenal in transition. And I said that you described the United game as a bit of a basketball match. And at Anfield, there was a chance, of course, there to be opportunities where you're in control and then they're in control. And there's going to be a lot of counter-attacks. And you've signed players like Victor and Eberezer who suit moments in transition. Did you specifically target players that would be good for these moments and where you're going to therefore hit teams on the counter? To which he said, we have to add players that add value to the things that can define football matches. And those two, they have the ability at the end to make the final action in many ways, to finish with the ball in the back of the net, which is the outcome that we want in every action that we have in our attacking phase. And those two, they're going to add this individual action, magic moments, and that's what we need to win games. And I thought there was a really interesting point around, against Man United, we really did transition well. We countered well, but when it came to the final action, when it came to the shot or the assist or the cross or the final pass, we didn't quite get that clicking. It didn't work. And so adding Gyökeres, who the idea is now he's more settled and he's had more time, the runs he makes when he gets into shooting positions, he is going to be more clinical in the box, as he showed, against Leeds the other day. And Eze is particularly good in the final action with either a shot from outside the box or a final pass, a creative moment. These are all players that add, as Arteta calls it, magic moments to the game. And that, I think, is obviously very, very key. Simon Collins asked a really good question as well about kind of how you now keep your squad happy with the number of players. And he says, are you worried about keeping players happy with the depth that you now have? And he says, worry? No. I think the word is that I care that everybody is happy as they possibly can be. That's a big part of my job, our job at the end, and to make sure that every player feels that he's fulfilling his potential and he's doing what he loves the most, which is to play football. So far, with the squad that we have and the 5, 6, 7 injuries that we have already, we haven't had many problems to make the squad. But with everybody available, that will be very different. But we're going to have to live with that. And that's why that competition is going to raise the level for everybody. So at the moment, we're not really having to worry about keeping many players out of the squad that we don't already expect to be kind of surplus to requirements. Everybody that's got a real place in this squad right now, because of the players that we are currently dealing with being injured, have got a place in the group. But when we get Saka back and and Havertz back, and we get Ødegaard back, and we get White back, and we get Norgard back, and we get Trossard back, and we get Jesus back, when we get these players back, there's going to be games where we have to leave 2, 3, maybe even 4 players that we expect to be in a squad on a match day out of the team entirely. And it's about how you keep that squad then balanced. And, you know, I thought it was definitely worthy of asking the question. The second question Simon asked was around Gabriel Martinelli and whether or not he could leave before the deadline, because, of course, there have been some links with the player leaving and, of course, with Arsenal potentially signing another wide player this window. And he says, no, I think Gabby's been a super important player for us and is going to remain to be very, very, very important. And the fact that we have options with different qualities is going to fulfill what we want, because every opponent is going to require different things. And then the state, the moment, the way that those players are impacting the game, and that competition is needed. We're having many other areas on the pitch, and it's needed, especially in the front line, to start the game and to finish the game. So I'm very happy with what we have. Now, I don't expect Arsenal to sign another attacking player during this window. I think this will be it. I think 8 signings will be where we finish. And that is an unbelievable window. I don't think we need another attacking player. We've got Eze who can come in and play on the left. He can play through the middle. We've got Martinelli still here. Of course, Trossard signing that new deal, and that injury we hope isn't too much of an issue. And hopefully he'll be back and fine. Saka's going to be back in a few weeks' time. We've got, of course, Jesus coming back midway through the season as well. We've got Havertz, of course, hopefully not out for longer than a couple of months, maybe slightly longer than that, but hopefully not longer than 3. So we've got plenty of players. We've got a really strong team. We don't need another signing. And I don't think we will sign another player. I'm certainly not hearing anything to suggest that we're going to sign another player. The only thing that I feel could change things is if they sense or smell an opportunity that is just too good to turn down. If that's a loan move for a certain player, if that's a price tag of a player that's a loan with an obligation, maybe there's something there, but I've heard nothing to suggest that's going to be the case. I know there's people online telling you that Arsenal are going to sign a winger. I'm telling you that's not coming from anywhere with any legitimate kind of sourcing or standard whatsoever. These faceless, nameless accounts that are not posting anything. Until it comes from a legitimate source, do your due diligence, screw your common sense cap on tightly, and just recognize that while we have signed 8 players, the likelihood that we'll sign another before the deadline is now incredibly unlikely. So I'm sorry, I can't see it. I'm sorry to pee in your cornflakes on a Saturday morning, but if you're not content with 8 signings coming through the door, I think that's a you problem, not an Arsenal problem, quite frankly. But what isn't a you problem and should never be a you problem is the safety and security of your data, because it can become a you problem if you don't take the steps to protect yourself when you're online, perhaps using a public Wi-Fi service or the like. That then is a you problem. But you can take that you problem and throw it in the bin by investing in something that will help you to make it no longer an issue. And that, you know, I know, we all know, is a VPN service. And if there's only one to choose from, and there is for me only one to choose from, that is NordVPN. The brilliant service that is Nord gives you that safety and security and peace of mind wherever you're using or surfing the internet for whatever you're doing on it. And that means that you've got that security to stop little snooping criminals from looking and stealing that data away from you. You can change your geolocation to anywhere in the territories, of course, supported by Nord, and perhaps you're going away on holiday this year. Speaking of loving Italy, I'm going to be there next week, and I can't wait to get there. But there is going to be things that I want to watch, of course, that I can't watch outside of the UK. So I need to hop back to the UK digitally, and I can do that, of course, with Nord. And if you go to nordvpn.com/Gooner, you get yourself a significant discount off a 1 or a 2-year plan. And of course, if you go for that 2-year deal, you can get 4 months extra thrown in free. Who can say any fairer than that? Well, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee on top of it all as well. Right, let's go to part 2. Your questions and more right after this. Okay, this is part 2 of today's show, which is, of course, the part of the show where we jump into the chat box and we tackle some of your questions. So if indeed you've got any questions that you'd like to go and discuss, now is the time to do it. Use a capital Q. It really, of course, does help those questions stand out, makes it easier for me to see them. And if you haven't already dropped a like on the video, I'd really appreciate if you could do so. We try and get to 1,000 likes on every single show that we do. So now is the time to help us out. Right. Okay. Let's go into the chat and tackle as many of these as we can in the next 20 minutes or so. I'm a real gunner, says Tom. Have you heard the Spurs fans now saying they're glad they didn't sign Eze, as Simmons is a better player and now our league challenges? Yeah, we all know what that's about. They're obsessed with Arsenal. We know that. We know Spurs, the club, are obsessed with Arsenal. Look at the caption of what they captioned the signing of Jamie Simmons with. Go look at it. I don't need to tell you what it is. Go look at it. It's hilarious. It's the most insecure thing I think I've ever seen. So it's just amusing. Xavi Simmons is a good player, but he's not world class. And in my opinion, Ebere Eze is world class. And you're going to see that. Joel says, I think we have some kind of agreement with Leverkusen for Hincapie, because why would they loan a player of that quality to us and we get an option to sign him? Berta is a genius. He is a genius. But mate, I would be surprised if Arsenal didn't make that deal permanent next summer. But the fact of the matter is that an option in his loan to Arsenal is just astonishing. Mazza says, is it not possible that the option was requested by Hincapie's team? There would always be a question mark regarding minutes. It seems possible that he would want to see if this is the right move for him. It wouldn't matter anyway, in many reasons. There's obviously obligations, and sometimes obligations are privy to certain clauses being activated. But I don't think it's to do with Hincapie's team. No, I think it's to do with Andrea Berta and his work to get Arsenal the best deal possible. Ben says, who do you think will start in Ødegaard's place? Should Arteta give Nwaneri the chance? My first live show. Doing so great, Tom. Thanks, Ben, for joining it. Or maybe Benjamin is what you prefer. Ben White style, or Benjamin White style. But I'd go for Eze personally in the game. Throw him straight in. He's match fit. He's ready. He's already played in the Premier League this season for Palace. Throw him in. Trial by fire. I'd love to see it. Peter says, Tom, if the players you mentioned earlier don't make the game, there will be some spaces on the bench. Would you expect those spaces to be filled by Nelson, Zinchenko, etc., or younger players from the 21s? Oh, I think it'll be senior players that fill the bench. I mean, if we have a quick look at the Arsenal Leeds squad, let's have a quick look at that squad that was on our bench. So we had Mosquera, Trossard, Nwaneri, Lewis-Skelly, Dowman, Martinelli, Kepa, Kiwior, Marino. So there'll be no Kiwior and there'll be no Trossard, we expect at least. But we also have to replace Saka and Ødegaard as well, because those two are also not going to be there. So that's 4 players that we've got to find replacements for. Now, Eze, of course, will take one of those spots. So that's one already naturally done. I think Zinchenko will take another one of those spots. I think, considering that we don't yet have Hincapie in the team, I think there's a good chance that we could see a potential another defender on that list. Maybe a Marley Salmon gets on the bench or is involved in the group in some way, or maybe it's one of the more senior kind of level under 21s players. I guess that's a potential option that we could see. Reece Nelson, I think, has got a good chance of maybe being in this as well with Trossard out. I guess Nelson comes in with Eze replacing Saka. So I think Nelson at the moment could potentially be on the bench for this game. And then, of course, you've got one more, which is who else are we missing? I guess Ødegaard's replaced by Eze. Nelson replaces Saka. Eze, who replaces Trossard then, did I say? Salmon replaces Kiwior, and Zinchenko replaces Trossard, right? I think that's what it will be. Vieira's not gone yet. I guess Vieira could potentially be on the bench as well. He's been training a lot with the team, so Vieira maybe. It's probably actually really smart to put Vieira involved in it at the moment. He's not yet left. He's been training with the team. So yeah, I guess Vieira. Also, I don't think Lokonga will be there, but he's an option. But I don't think he'll be there. Right, let's scroll to the top. Mark says, Rama from Uganda, I'm happy that my club towards its transfers is confirmed, but will the team keep its consistency up from last season? Our demand this time is to triple, not only in the Premier League. Our demand is the treble in the Premier League. My goodness me, Mark. That is a high expectation for Arsenal. Pete says Xavi Simmons is more experienced than 28-year-old Eze, who's never had a Champions League debut or a European competition. I mean, Pete doesn't even know how old Eze is for starters. So that's quite funny. Harish says, given a choice, would you want Eze to start from the left or as a 10? I like him as a 10, then as a left winger. In the long term, I see Eze starting over Odegaard, and we have our out-and-out left winger, not this season, but maybe next season. I think this season, in the long term, Eze on the left is what I'd like to see. Odegaard, of course, playing the 10. But against Liverpool, I think we can move Eze straight into the number 10 role. Shaq says, why stop at 8 signings? Round it up to 10, left winger and a midfielder. We never, ever, ever just feel like we have enough. Patrick says, when's the next match preview? It'll be in tomorrow morning's 8 a.m. show. I won't be here in the studio because I'm at the in-laws this evening and staying over before getting the train up to Liverpool from there tonight or from tomorrow morning. So I won't be in the usual surroundings. It might be a condensed show as well because I'm getting the train from further down south. So I need to get on the train earlier to go up. So it might be a more condensed show, but we will have our preview tomorrow. And Kumbi says, hey Tom, I'm from Nigeria. Is Hincapie coming? Yes. Natalie says, can Trossard play? Maybe not a game against Liverpool, selected for Belgium. It's confusing. I think they kind of select players based on initial ideas about the squad and then can replace players if indeed they get injured. So it might be they're kind of seeing if this minor issue he's not okay for Liverpool, but he might be okay for Belgium. So there's kind of a difficult one. Ernest says, is Piero Hincapie likely to start the league games? He has an outstanding pace and possesses a threat when joining attacks. I think he's got a great chance to start many games for Arsenal this season, more so than Kiwior did. So that's the key point, I think, to look to. Shortback says, why don't the PGMOL get transfer budgets to sign referees? If only, mate. James says, if you could add one player from Arsenal's past into this team, who would it be and why? It would be Alexis Sanchez, I think. Prime Alexis Sanchez on the left. And that would be the missing piece. You know, I think we all look at kind of the left-hand side, more of a natural winger. And I think Alexis Sanchez in his absolute prime on the left-hand side, I think I'd probably go for Alexis. You know, Robert Pires, brilliant player. Call me crazy, but I think I rank Alexis just slightly above Robert Pires. And I know people who are potentially more experienced in this world than I am will disagree and don't like the way that, of course, Alexis left for Man United. If we're talking about who's the bigger legend, there's no doubt about it that Pires is a bigger legend than Alexis. But in terms of just quality, Alexis just... I loved Alexis. Alexis is just... I'm gutted the way it ended. But for me, if Arsenal had Alexis, prime Alexis in this team, I'd have no doubt putting Arsenal as favourites. No doubt putting Arsenal as favourites. And says, Tom, with all due respect, what hand of Arsenal said that Berta will assess the market? My gut feelings that we have one more surprise. Anthony, I appreciate your optimism. I really, really do. And as I said on the show, you know, they will be aware of any potential market opportunities that are out there. But in terms of kind of the people out there that are saying, we're going to sign one more, and I don't think Hand of Arsenal has said that, but they will be monitoring it. They'll be across it. But those that are saying, we're going to sign one more, they don't know. They don't know. They haven't got a clue. So don't pay any attention to them. Beans on Toast says, have you heard the rumor that Berta is a hypnotist? When he leaves the negotiating table, his opposite number is signed off on the player that has had his pants pulled down, asking for a friend. I mean, we have pulled a lot of clubs' pants down this summer. I'll tell you what, some of the deals that we've done have been incredible. So it's allegations from Beans on Toast there. Tyler says, when you see the defenders that we are buying or have been rumoured to be looking at, does Saliba's contract worry you? And could Arsenal use him to bring in funds to keep a solid defence? I don't think so. And I think, as I keep pointing out to people, the Saliba contract is calm. We're fine on it right now. It's not in any danger at the moment. I'm not saying it's done. I'm just saying it's calm. We're calm about Saliba's future. Joe says, why do people always think Odegaard will be displaced immediately because Eze has signed? I see Eze's future on the left. I think his immediate future almost certainly will be on the left kind of for this season. Odegaard will play with Eze, but some people just don't like Odegaard. And that means that they kind of want to see him replaced as soon as feasibly possible. Maximus says, Tom, it's an alternative universe. Edu is still our sporting director. How do you envision our transfer window going? And who and how many players do you think? I think we'd still sign. I think we probably would have signed Šeško. I think we probably would have paid the money that RB Leipzig wanted. I don't think we would have walked away. I think we would have probably paid what they wanted. Maybe slightly down on 90 million, but I think we probably would have paid more. I don't think we would have pivoted as quickly as we did to Gyökeres. I think the Madueke deal probably still would have happened as well. We've got a strong link there. I don't think that we would have signed Hincapie. I don't think we would have signed Eze. I just don't see those deals happening. I just can't really see them going down. So I think we would have had a decent window, like an okay window. I don't know if we would have had a world-class window. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Let me throw that question in as a poll. I'm just very curious to see how wrong you think I am. So who was the bigger legend? Who was the better footballer? That's my question to you. Prime Arsenal Perez or prime Arsenal Alexis? That's the question. I think it's a great question. I don't think it's as cut and dry as people make out, but let me know your thoughts and drop a vote on the poll. I'm definitely not a hand of Arsenal. Speaking to myself would be a bit weird when I've had conversations with them. Amar Organa says, Tom, have you seen the clubs have charged Arsenal with fraud and want to see Dowman's birth certificate? I don't have any idea about that, mate. So I haven't seen anything to do with that. No, sorry. Dino says, do you think Arteta will rotate the squad better this year? He only put Noni on the right when Saka got injured. He also, I think, will use Madueke on the right in games that you need to give him a rest. Now we've signed Eze. We've got an option for the left. So I think Madueke, when Saka's back, maybe on the bench. And then, of course, replace Saka on the right in certain games. But there may be cup matches, Champions League games, maybe even some Premier League games where we can rotate Saka out and give him something of a rest as well, especially with these hamstring issues that continue to kind of plague him over the last year. Nathan says Stepanovs was a good shout. I'll go with him. What a player. Eddie says, Edu wouldn't have signed Šeško to maintain good relationships with Bayer Leverkusen. I don't know, but I mean, RB Leipzig was where we played, not Leverkusen. Anna says, Tom, despite buying Hincapie, we should all agree that Kiwior was phenomenal for us when Gabriel... without a doubt, Anas, and I think that's a fair point to raise. Kiwior leaves Arsenal with his head held very much high. He leaves Arsenal as a successful signing. He leaves Arsenal having improved his value. He leaves Arsenal with profit from the player that they signed. And he leaves Arsenal as a mid-20s player that's going to go on, I think, to have a very good career. And Kiwior, I've got all the respect in the world for what he's achieved with Arsenal, and I think he absolutely deserves to have that credit for sure. So very, very important comment. Amar Organa says, Tom, so Berta is the manager. Surely Berta signed the players Arteta wanted, same as Edu. Berta paid Chelsea what they wanted for Palace too. The dynamic between the sporting director is simple. Arsenal have demands. Arteta has demands. They have desires. They have wants. They have players they want. They have positions they want. And it's not down to Arteta who Arsenal end up getting, because it's not his job to get deals over the line. That's the job of the sporting director. That's why when we've talked about him being backed, him getting the players that he wants in the past, and he's not always been delivered that. We didn't get Lisandro Martinez. We didn't get Mudryk. We didn't get Rafinha. We didn't get these players. Didn't get Šeško, previously. He's not always been delivered the players that he wanted under Edu. When it came to this summer, they had the desire to sign a centre forward. Šeško was the preference for sure, but they weren't. That doesn't mean they didn't still want Gyökeres. He was on the list for a long time, way before even Berta turned up. He was a player the club were looking at quite closely going into the summer of 2024. They didn't get a striker in that window. That's down to Edu, not because of Arteta. It's not down to Arteta that they didn't get a striker in January. That's down to Jason Ato and the team that were involved in the recruitment at that time. Arteta's job is to coach. Arteta's job is to manage. Arteta's job is to work with the hierarchy to identify potential options and positions of areas of weakness, areas of development. But it is the sporting director's job to get the players in. That's their job. That's what they are tasked with. They communicate, they strategize, they deliberate with, of course, the management and the hierarchy about who might target it, but they could go for, and they have a big input in kind of the identification of talent, of course, as well. But it's not Arteta's job to sign the players. It's Berta's job, and previously Edu's job, to sign the players. And when we got to the end of the window in 2024, and Edu stood outside of the Shobarulti Training Centre saying, we didn't plan to do this, we didn't plan to do that, that is not good enough. When you've just finished a season and you've finished 2 points off Manchester City, coming to the end of a window after that season and saying things like, we didn't plan to do this, is not good enough. And the sales might have been good that summer, and he definitely improved his reputation regarding the sales side of things. And I still have a lot of respect for what Edu did during his time here, but his final window and his decision to leave ended up being a blessing in disguise for us. It was a blessing in the end that he would leave. I've got a lot of time for Edu, got a lot of respect for Edu, for him as a sporting director, as a person. Any of my engagements with him had always been very, very good. But at the end of his time with Arsenal, the final window he had was, even though at the time I felt better than it ended up being, and in retrospect, I definitely overrated that window. In retrospect, that window was a failure. That window was a failure. This window is anything but a failure. This summer window has been an overwhelming success. A 9.5 out of 10 window for me, with Hincapie coming in. I could not have asked for more personally. And I know that that sounds weird saying it was 9.5, but I don't give 10s. I just don't. It's not something I ever give. Only on her wedding day did I give her a 10. So on 9.5 is the maximum, the max. I don't give 10s as a rule. I just don't do it. There's always room for improvement somehow in the impossibility of it. But I don't think it could have been better. Realistically, I don't think it could have been better. So yeah, I just can't. I've given a 10 once. Once I've given a 10, and I told you when that was. Yeah, great husband point scoring there. I don't know if I did or not. I don't know if that came across in the right way at all. Lil Techie says, Tom, did we include a sell-on clause in the Kiwior deal? Yeah, I believe that we did, yes. Ty says, how did Eze and Noni fare against Liverpool last season from their respective clubs? I'm curious, given the game on Sunday. I don't know. Chelsea, who scored versus Liverpool? Not who scored as in the website who do the ratings. Liverpool 2, Chelsea 1, 24-25. Do we have the player ratings? Doesn't look like it. That's annoying. Match Center. That's what I want, I think. Yes. Madueke got 6.6, which was the third highest, fourth highest, fifth highest. I mean, Jackson got a 7.2. They lost the game 2-1, which was higher than Palmer, higher than Sancho, higher than the backline other than Gusto. So not amazing from Madueke, really, in the game. Jackson scored the goal, which is why his rating went slightly higher. I don't know about the other game, though. So, yeah, but again, I'm always kind of reluctant to look at how they got on for Chelsea because it's Chelsea. So, yeah, they're always a bit of a wild card, Chelsea. Don't really know how to rate players. Z says, Tom, are you selling Palmer? How many Arsenal do you... What? I don't know what you're talking about, mate. Pablo says, Isak isn't the main man for his country. Gyökeres is. Put some respect on his name. I am a perfectionist. 100% I am. Stephen says, Tom, for your sake, I hope you give your wife a 10 every day. You know. Of course I do. If you don't give 10s, then the scale isn't at a 10, respectfully. Kevin, I respectfully disagree. Dow says, imagine Tom's wife not hitting the like button. I think she may have just taken the like off that. James says, Tom's chopped off half a finger because he was never showing 10. Indeed. You know? It's weird. It's weird. I can't even do that. Toby says Edu wasn't good enough when it came to negotiating deals. I mean, not good enough if the scale's Berta, then yeah. I mean, that's just the evidence is against you. Right, shall we check on our poll? Oh, I tell you what, this is exactly what I expected. More than 300 of you have voted so far. 51% of you said Alexis Sanchez. 49% of you say Robert Pires. 51% Alexis. 49% Robert Pires. So very interesting that. It is very, very close. Very, very close. Kingsley Opera says, is Salah shifting pressure to Arsenal by saying we're favourites? Of course he is. I mean, they're favourites. They won the league. I mean, saying that Arsenal are favourites is just really, for the perspective of the champions, saying that your opponent is the favourite is some real beta energy, to use a more modern phrase. Ben says, would your whole base of signing up for a VPN make this window a 10 out of 10? Oh, I don't know. That could take it from a 9.5 to a 10, you know. And Maximus says, it's too close to call. I know it is. That's what I said. It's close. And that's why I said, when I said that I think, for me, Prime Alexis, slightly better footballer than Prime Pires. I think it's cut and dry as people think. I don't think it's a crazy opinion at all. I really, really don't think it's a crazy opinion. And it's 50-50 apparently now. Has it changed to 50-50? It is 50-50. That's what I mean. It's very close. I don't think whatever the result is, I think the point stands that at the end of the day, it's a lot like it's a really, really good argument. It's a really good argument. A really good debate to have. And Johnny says, yes, but who saw Pires play? A lot of people. It wasn't that long ago, Johnny. And if you're an Arsenal fan, you should go back and be able to watch that and appreciate the players for what they are. I'm talking about purely in terms of legendary status. Pires wins comfortably. Pires is a far bigger legend than Alexis Sanchez. But in terms of footballing ability, for me, Alexis he takes it. He takes it. And Pires did some brilliant things. But for me, it's Alexis. Adele says, many professional footballers and footballing clubs incorporate yoga into their training for flexibility, injury prevention, and improved performance, with notable players like Messi, Ronaldo, and Salah also doing it. Look at that for insight this morning. Avinash says, I feel like with Edu, we got linked with one player for the whole window. And if that deal fell through, we had no good backups. I don't think that's true. We didn't get Lisandro Martinez. They pivoted to Zinchenko. We didn't get Rafinha. And to be fair, who did we pivot to after Rafinha? Now I'm thinking about it. Who was the pivot that summer? What summer was that? Was that 20? Arsenal linked with Rafinha. What summer? What forward player? Did we sign a forward player? Obviously, we tried to sign Mudryk in the January and then pivoted to Trossard after that. 2022 was so Arsenal all transfers. What was our 2022 summer? We signed Jesus, Zinchenko, and Vieira, I think, is who we signed that summer. 2022. Yeah, it was Jesus, Vieira, and Zinchenko. And then we signed Trossard. So I guess you could say that we didn't get Rafinha. They tried to get Mudryk in January. They couldn't get Mudryk. They then got Trossard. So I guess that's how that one went down. But yeah, I think that to say that we didn't, we had no backups, that's obviously not true. But I think what we can say now is that Berta is a more ruthless operator in the market when it comes to don't want to pay the money for Šeško because it's silly. Go and get Gyökeres for a really good deal. And we did that. And we did it swiftly. 3 weeks is all we waited for that deal to happen. So, yeah, I think so. Right. I think we're coming to the close here. So, yeah, I think that's where we're going to finish. And the poll finishes. Let's just end this poll now because it ends 50-50, which is... Oh, wait, hold on. That can't be right. It says 50% Pires, 49% Alexis. I never give 10s. Apparently, I never give 100% either. So, but yeah, it's a very tight one to call. And it's a very, 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 very tight poll. And I think it definitely goes to the wire, I think, for most people when it comes to this debate. Let us know in the comment section. Who was the better player, better footballer, not bigger legend? The bigger legend debate's not a debate, but who was the better footballer? That's what I want to know. Tell me in the chat box. Tell me in the comment section after the show's finished. Get in touch. Let us know. Of course, you can follow me over on Blue Sky at tomcanton.bsky.social, on X at Tom Canton Media, on Instagram at Tom Canton Media as well. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. Really appreciate your time. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day. Enjoy yourselves. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. Enjoy your Saturday. And as always, up the Arsenal.